All right, everybody. This will be a little change of pace for knife videos for a couple of reasons. One is my knife videos get very little in the way of views and therefore revenue, so it's a loss leader. You know, I'll do a review of what I think is a cool knife and what people would be interested in, and honestly, I get very little traction from them. And also, I think I'm just getting knifed out. And I'll explain why. You may think, well, what do these have to do with anything? I'm just looking around, I'm looking through my collection. I've got like, I don't know, 70, 80 knives in the drawers and stuff. And I think I'm just going to liquidate most of my collection. I'm going to keep my LionSteels, my Great Eastern cutleries, my Medford, my Tops knives. I'm going to keep the more high dollar ones. I'll keep my Axials and stuff like that. My Benchmade bug out. I'll keep my Spyderco Para 2. But I really, I'm looking at the collection and I just, almost every night I'm sitting on the couch perusing through Amazon or Blade HQ looking to see, oh, what cool knife could I get? What cool knife could I get? And as much as I like them, at the end of the day, I started really paying attention to what I carry. What do I actually use? It's cool to have them, but I've said in other videos, some guys are really over the top with, they call themselves collectors. It's organized hoarding. And I realized, that might apply just a little bit to myself. So started looking at all the knives I have that are cool. And I'm like, oh, it'd be good for this, be good for that. And at the end of the day, what am I actually using? I mean, this is one of the best EDC knives out there. I haven't carried this 3 years. I mean, maybe once in 3 years. And I got a lot of knives like that. So I have a pile of knives on the other table. The Rough Rider Reserves, Eafengrows, Sitiviens, a case knife, the Land 910, a whole bunch of stuff. And they're all cool knives. But I'm actually going to get rid of at least half my knife collection. Just give them away to friends or, whatever. Somebody needs a knife here. Pick one out of this box of knives. So I looked at, what am I actually carrying on a daily basis? And you know which one is in my knife, which is in my pocket more often than any knife? It's one of these two. As much as I like the one-hand opening and locking and more tactical and bigger, heavy-use knives, at the end of the day, I'm opening packages. Most of the time, cutting string, cutting zip ties, doing some little work, or I need a screwdriver or some other things, and that's why I started gravitating back towards the Victorinox. And so, when I look at what these things cover, there's what this can do. This is a great utility knife, and this could be a defensive, of course. You would never use it offensively, but it could be a defensive weapon. And you know what? That's great. When was the last time I was on a knife fight? I've gone 50 years and never gotten in a knife fight. So what do I actually use on a daily basis? One of these. I've got the Adventurer. I've also got the next one up, which is the Trekker, which is the exact same knife. Just happens to have a saw blade. So if I'm, if I think I'm going to be more out in the woods or I was going to go hunting or something, then I'm going to take something more like that or one of these that's got more tools. But as far as like which is slim and comfortable and ergonomic and slips in my pocket and covers the basics. I mean, I got all the punch holes and things. I got tweezers, toothpick, constantly using Phillips screwdriver. And then you got, regular screwdriver, which locks open on this one, just like the blade. And I got a can opener. Now, you don't open cans that often, but if you work camping or an emergency situation, the point is I actually use this. I use this blade all the time. It's wicked sharp. I have the one thing that I don't like about the Victorinox folders is that the tips are typically very blunt. They're almost like a safety point. And when you have to open something like by piercing it, because it's not sharp, you have to put a lot more pressure to do it. And if it isn't a locking blade, like on this one, you got to put that extra pressure. And then if it does close, you're having a bad day. You're going in for stitches. So these are now very, very pointy. How I do that is go out to the belt sander. Now, when you do this, you have to be very careful because you don't want to, and you don't want to hold it there too long. You're just going to kiss that belt sander and you're just going to do it like this. A little bit at a time, feel it with your fingers to make sure you're not overheating the blade. If it gets too uncomfortable to touch, stop. Dip it in water, let it cool down for a few seconds, and then do a little bit at a time. And you just want to take that edge and bring it to a nice point. That is a nice now stabby little point. Normally, you can push pretty damn hard on the front of a Swiss Army knife and not have to worry about pricking your finger. I wouldn't do that on these. These are nice right to a really good, still strong, well-supported point. Same thing on the Ranger grip, 78. I reprofiled that tip down to, it doesn't look as pointy, but that is a very stabby little point. So I find myself carrying these knives more often than not. This one especially. This is right now my current EDC, EDC of choice. It is two-handed opening instead of one, but it does have a decently stout blade. It's very sharp. It's also easy to bring back to a sharp when you strap it. Very, very sharp. Pointy, long enough blade, good slicer. Can be stabby because you got that extra safety of a pretty beefy liner lock right there. Yeah, it takes two hands to open and close it, but for just a basic set of tools, for a knife that's big enough to do bigger cutting chores, and if you had to stick it in something or someone without worrying about it closing on you, it's going to do a better job. If I'm going to be at the office or something for a day and I want something a little smaller, but then opens up, I don't have a Phillips screwdriver, but what might I need in its place in an office environment? I don't know, maybe I need a pair of scissors to open something or cut a tag off something. It's nice having, an even more compact, but a higher number of tools. And if you're going out camping, then you got the big boy. Steel liners, really thick aluminum A-locks, anodized scales, very strong, nice beefy blade, perfect for going camping or outdoor work or things like that. So when it comes to EDC, there's people look at Swiss Army knives as, they're okay, they're cool, they're neat, whatever. A lot of, and I was one of them, was gravitating towards, the bigger tactical knives, the one-handed opening, all that kind of stuff. And I think in my head I rationalized why I thought it was cool, and I do. They're just not as useful. On a daily basis, I look at all my knives, I look at some of the ones with M390, my MKMs, my LionSteels. I've got some really nice knives. I end up not carrying them all that much because I want to scratch them and bang them up. I almost never carry my OTFs, so my Microtecs, my Axial Gears, stuff like that. Once in a while I'll carry the bug out. The bug out, even though it's a single blade, that does make it high in my rotation because it's so small and so slim you can just stick it anywhere. But this is kind of my favorite right now. And I look at the Victorinox, and you got a range. You got the little baby one. You got a little bit bigger that's a little more useful. If you're really, more outdoorsy and going camping or something, and you want that one-handed opening, and you want a decent-sized saw, and stuff like that, you got that. And if you need a folding hunter, I got that. All these knives combined are, I don't know, maybe $300, if that, maybe $300. With tax and shipping and stuff like that. And you kind of have all your bases covered. So that's what I'm doing these days. I think I'm going to get out of the knife. So this is not so much a review, just explaining why you're going to see a lot less knife content. I'm just going to get rid of half my shit. I just don't need it. I bought it because I thought it was cool. I like watching knife reviews. I thought doing them would be fun, and it kind of is, but nobody seems to watch them. And so kind of like the politics, if no one's getting value out of it, it's like, why spend my time? And more importantly, why spend my money doing something that I appear to be the only one really getting any value out of it, other than maybe a small handful. There's like 5 or 6 people that I usually get comments from. But I'll put up a video where I'm like, oh, this is going to be a hit. This is an amazing, that Sitivien, what was it, the 955 or whatever, that's titanium and ball bearings and carbon fiber and M390. It's one of the best blades I've bought in years. And it was like $80 or $70, something like that, $79. And I was like, man, people are going to love this. And I think it's been out there for 3.5 weeks and it's still under 100 views. And I'm probably 10 of them. So sometimes what I think is cool is not what the audience thinks is cool. So we're going to see a lot less knife content. It's going to be few and far between. When I find something that I think is really interesting and might have mass appeal, I'll go ahead and review it. But other than that, I think Davey Boy here is going to get out of the knife reviewing business. It just doesn't seem to pay off. It just doesn't seem to get any traction. And I'm trying to grow the channel, so I got to put content out there that people actually like. Doesn't matter what I think's cool. It's what you guys like and what you guys find interesting. So I'll see if I can figure out what that is. The bike stuff definitely is the most popular. Dave's Garage, some of the vlogging, some of the rides and track day videos. That seems to be where the action's at. So I'm going to refocus more of my efforts and my money on the bike mods and things like that, and save the knife stuff for something special, kind of like I do with the guns. I don't review every gun I have, and that's probably another thing I need to go through and maybe weed out my collection. If I go into my John Wick room, I look in there and there's just 40 plus guns and 18,000 plus rounds of ammo, and I'm looking at it, and it's awesome having all that stuff. But part of me's going, what am I ever going to use this shit for? Oh, if the shit hits the fan. Okay. So I'm going to arm 2/3 of my subdivision. Like as far as what I have and what I could realistically use and carry or even get to the range and shoot, I probably need 8 guns. You know, a couple shotties, lever actions, an AR or 2, give me a bolt gun, maybe a revolver and a pistol. It's like I don't need 9 revolvers. I don't need 6 ARs. I don't need 7 or 8, 10, whatever I got, shotguns. So I'm probably going to be a little more introspective and maybe just scale back my hobbies a little bit. I always like the idea of getting things, and I like the idea of owning them. But then the reality is, if they just sit there collecting dust, whether it's a knife in a drawer or a $800 firearm sitting in a closet or a safe, is it really, what's the point in having it? These things should be enjoyed. So anyway, there's my update, and there's my current favorite EDC right now. It's just perfect, spot on ergos. For some reason, this one I didn't need to snip the key ring on. It doesn't dig into my hand. I don't know why on this one. Maybe it's because on the other one it was further over, but the placement is perfect. These blades have a little bit of forward and back, although this one has less than most. But it's a nice, securely locking blade. You'd have to put a lot of pressure on that to crush that and bend that and have it close on your hand. You'd have to be a complete idiot. But it's nice, it's light, it's thin, and it's got most of your basic everyday tools, so that's what I'm carrying, that or this. And these would be more if I'm going to be out, at a friend's property in the woods, and we're, I don't camp a lot, but if I was going to go camping or we're out there hunting or something, all right, then I'm going to want something bigger, beefier, heavier duty. If I got to skin something, if I need a saw, whatever, then you got that. Anyway, that's our update. Sorry for the few folks that like knife reviews, but yeah, I think I'm going to get out of the knife reviewing business. Anyway, we'll see you soon. We got more content coming in other areas.